Hello and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to make an adorable little mummy figurine using the supplies I got in NerdECrafter's Not Another Crap kit. This kit is sold out, but check out smartart.com to stay up to date on nerdy products. Link in the description below. Alright, we'll get started right after this. So the main thing this kit seems to be focusing on is to create your own little figurine using the mold that Jackie made. And she's got some great instructions that come with the kit. And there's also some videos which I haven't checked out. But I did see on one of Jackie's videos that she was concerned that people weren't following the instructions perfectly, and she was worried about their creations not turning out. So you know what? I'm going to follow these perfectly. I'm rubber banding the little mold. I'm going to go ahead and mix up my permastone, measuring out exactly how those instructions say, because I'm not going to mess this up. This is going to be perfect. I'm going to follow it exactly as it says. I mean, you'd be a madman not to follow instructions. So I've got the permastone measured out, and I've got the little collapsible bowl, and I love this bowl. This came with the kit. Absolutely just great. And now I'm going to pour in some water, the exact amount that it says in the instructions, and it's just bubbling up. So I'm going to go ahead and mix it. I did find it was the spatula was a little flimsy to mix it, but it did come with some popsicle sticks, easy for me to say. So I'm going to break up the permastone that's in the bottom there, and then I'm going to mix up some more. You see I made a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. It's got this cute little collapsible funnel, so I'm pouring that in, breaking up some more. I'm going to go ahead, and you can see no permastone's leaking out of my mold. I'm doing this perfect, So I'm letting it seep in there. And she said don't pick it up, but I just kind of picked it up a little bit to move it around and get some air bubbles out. But this is still going to work. And I vibrated the table. All right, so I let it sit for an hour. It said 35, 40 minutes, whatever. So I'm going to let it sit for an hour and it'll be okay. Uh-oh, did you see what I did there? Yep. I skipped a step. Number 9, remove the surface water with a paper towel and add more plaster if needed. Vibrate the mat again and repeat until the mold is filled to the top. I did not do that. But you know what? That's going to be okay because I'm going to add some clay to the top, round it out before I add my bandages for the mummy. But first thing I'm going to do is take my knife, clean off the excess flashing, and then take a paper towel, wipe him down so he's all nice and smooth and ready for clay. So I got him set aside. I'm going to go ahead and make the resin eyes. So I'm going to make them 2 different sizes. And this is UV resin. There's a little tutorial in the booklet as well to do the eyes. So I've got the first one done, takes about 30 seconds. And I went ahead and demolded up both of them up there. And now I'm going to paint them. So I'm going to start with some black pupils. And I'm just going to splotch it in there. I don't want them to be circles or dots. I want them to be kind of splotchy. So I'm going to do both those eyes. And then I'm going to paint yellow behind the black. So when you see it, it'll just be a black pupil and a yellow eye. I'm going to get those done. I'm going to let those dry. Flip them over, you can see my little eyes, and I do have them kind of looking off to the side and upwards. I mean, I could make it downwards, but I decided I want to make it upwards. So now I'm going to add the clay and round out his head. So I'm using the Sculpey oven baked clay adhesive first, taking the gray Super Sculpey, smoothing it on there, and I did soften it up just a little bit before I put it on there. So I've got his head rounded out. Now I want to add his face, so I'm adding some clay to that. And I did take a paper towel and remove the excess Sculpey off my fingers, or the clay adhesive off my fingers before I started adding the sculpting the face. Words are hard today. So I'm going to sculpt out the face and the head, and I'm going to add the details. So I'm using a ball tool to do indentions for the eyes and an indentation for what's left of his nose. He is a mummy after all. So I'm going to go ahead and press in my little resin eyes. And I'm already really digging this look for this guy. He kind of has that, zombie undead look. I'm going to make his nose a little bit deeper, add some crevices, give him that mummified look that he's going to have. And in fact, when I was doing this, I thought, okay, I'm going to end up painting this guy, but I don't think I'm going to paint the gray. I really like that. I went ahead and sculpted his hand too. So now I'm making him a little ankh. He's got that right hand outstretched, and I thought he needs something in there. And I thought an ankh would be perfect. It's, represents life. So he's, maybe this is a magical ankh that brought him back to life, and he's got to hold it in his hand. Make sure he's, carries it everywhere he goes, and that's where he gets his power. I don't know. I just like making up little stories for my characters. Makes them more interesting. So now that I'm happy with the shape, I'm just using my small ball tool to add just a little bit of texture to it and get it just perfect. All right, the next thing is the bandages, and I knew I'd have to make a lot of bandages. So this step took a long time. I rolled them out, used my X-Acto knife to trim down the sides of them, cut off the ends of them, used the needle tool to add little like tears in the sides, and then on the ends made it frayed. And I just did tons of these, wrapping up his legs, his body. And as I was doing this, I was getting to about this point, and I was getting a little bit concerned that I was going to start messing up my sculpts. So I decided after this last bandage here, I'm going to go ahead and bake him according to package instructions, save the progress I've done, let him cool down, and I'll start working on him again. So I've got his ankh baked too, and I noticed it's a little bit tight in his hand. I mean, I want it to be tight because I want him to hold it, but it wasn't really going in, and I didn't want to force it and break it. So I took the XL knife, it's not an X-Acto knife, XL knife that came with the kit, trimmed it out, got it fitting. So now it's back to the bandages using the clay adhesive. And this time I put it on the bandage itself because I didn't want to cover the entire figure with it. And that way it would be in the area that I needed it to be. So I'm just wrapping these around again, getting them all placed. And I try to either hold it by the head or the legs that are already baked. And then I went ahead and went on to the top of his head. So I knew I'd have to wrap it around, but if I wrapped it around and didn't cover up the top, it'd give him like a cone head. And then I don't really want a cone head mummy. So I'm using these to go across, like front to back. And once I get that covered, I can start wrapping them around the top of his head, like do them horizontally. And in fact, this kind of made him look like a little Rambo guy. But I went ahead and did more, and you can see this one here is just huge. This is the biggest bandage I did in one run. And I attached it onto one to look like it was part of an existing bandage. And once I was happy with it, I kind of had to adjust it some because it was gapping too much. I didn't have a problem with some gaps on there, but I didn't want it to gap too much because that white would be showing through. So I went ahead and got that fixed. And once I was happy with how this looked, I just went back in with the needle tool and kind of touched up places where I smushed together or I thought they needed a little bit more detail. And then I went ahead and baked it a second time according to package instructions, let it cool down, and now I want to go ahead and glue on these pieces that broke off. I've used Primo, Fimo, Sculpey 3, Super Sculpey before, and for some reason this stuff seemed really brittle. It's Super Sculpey Gray, I've used beige, I don't know if there's a difference there, but I did have some issues with breakage, but I did fix it the best I could. And now we're into the final phase of the creation. We're going to start doing some painting. So the first thing I did was use black paint to paint all the little crevices and areas not covered by the clay. That way when I paint over it and do the bandages and everything, if there's any deep spots, those are just black. And I don't have to worry about them. So you can see back here, technically they should be gray like the flesh, but that's okay. Then I went ahead and painted the ankh gold. And again, all these paints came with the kit. Everything I'm using came with the kit. Now that I've got the ankh done, I'm going to go ahead and paint the bandages white. I wanted to make sure that they were different than the flesh, so I wanted to give them a white paint job. And I wanted to have good coverage, even though I knew in the end I didn't want it to be this white, clean mummy. But for this section, I'm just painting it white, getting it done. Took it like 2 to 3 coats to get them all covered. So now what do I do to digi them up? Give them a brown wash. So I'm taking some brown acrylic paint and some water, and I'm just going to slap it on there, let it get into the crevices, kind of dingy up the whole sculpture. But the problem was this wasn't very brown. It was more water. So I did a little bit of water and some more, more brown to water ratio. But then I made a mess. So here we are, an instant replay. But it wasn't too bad of a mess. So this was much better. I still wanted it to be white, but like I said, I wanted to dingy him up. I wanted him to look like a mummy. So I'm just going over the entire sculpture with this brown wash. And then once that's all covered, I'm going to go ahead and let him dry overnight. It is pretty wet. We'll check on him. And here is the finished mummy made from the NerdECrafter Not Another Crap kit. I absolutely love this guy. I love the style of the figure the NerdECrafter did. I am so happy she did this. And I think it's fun that like all these different artists are making these little figurines, but they're in her style. And it's kind of reminds me of like Funko Pops. Like you could do any character in this style, and they all are part of this, to me, family, but they still have the unique individuality of the artist that created them. So, Jackie, if you're watching this, thank you so much for doing this kit. I'm glad I could be part of this, and we'll definitely be making tons more of these little characters. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and remember, never stop creating. Bye! So here's the part where I say, hey, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Also, check out these other great videos. I, record this before I put those other videos in there, but I'm going to put some awesome stuff here for you guys to click on so that, it's kind of a reward for staying till the end. All right, thanks, guys. Have a great day.